So the church chooses this passage from when Jesus is hanging from the cross, and the Jews are saying in mockery, if you're the king of the Jews, save yourself. And the inscription, the INRI, you see in crucifixes, this is the king of the Jews. And so despite themselves, the Romans and the Jews proclaim Jesus as king in mockery, but it was really true. And God arranged it so that, we have this proclamation. So our king is a crucified king. Our king is the one on the cross. And so it's a great paradox that our king reigns on his throne on a cross, crucified in torture and pain and suffering. That's our king. Our king allowed himself to do that. So, of course, Jesus is God. Even though he's suffering on the cross, he still governs the universe. He still keeps everything in being from the cross while he's crucified. And we say the same thing. Jesus in the Eucharist, if he's on the altar here exposed, he just looks like a wafer of bread, and yet he's ruling the universe, governing. All the angels are surrounded by him, taking orders from the Eucharist to run the world. So Jesus is king in that way, as a humble piece of bread, and as a humiliated, crushed man on the cross. He's still our king. And this is God, who's almighty, can do everything and anything, and he humbles himself to this great extent. So our king is a king who is humble. That's an amazing thing, and that is true. It's true. God is so good, so infinitely lovable and good and humbling himself for our sake. Everything's for our sake. And then he offers us all of heaven for our next life. All treasures of heaven, he's offering them all to us if we will only subject ourselves to his kingship, his rule, his gospel, his commandments, what he wants us to do all the days of our life. Will we subject ourselves? Will we be obedient? Will we say, yes, I will obey? Or be like Satan saying, I will not serve, and then be cast into the darkness forever and ever? Will we serve our King? And so this day is the last Sunday of the year, and then we start the new liturgical year, the year of the seasons, Advent and Christmas and ordinary time, and Lent and ordinary time. So it's the beginning of the liturgical season next week. So we cap it all off. We end the whole long ordinary time with Christ the King reigning, and we proclaim it. We choose beautiful songs that belt out Jesus Christ as our King, and we belt it out big from our hearts, saying Jesus is our King. He's my King. He's my family's King. He's my church's King. He's hopefully the King of the society, King of our country, King of our local community. King, we need to make him reign. Glorify Jesus. Glorify God as King. And it's interesting that God should use the title King. Why not President? Why not Prime Minister? Why not, why does he choose King? King isn't that a medieval thing? Isn't that from the old days? Nowadays we got rid of kings. We got rid of kings in the 18th century, didn't we? Or the 19th century. We got rid of all the kings, and whatever kings are left, look at England's king. It's just a joke. The royalty and the things you hear about that, it's all just paparazzi, Hollywood type fanfare, and what the media does with the royalty there in England. It's just all a bunch of gossip and joking, and they have no power. So kings now don't have any power. So why does the church still proclaim Jesus as King? Does it mean anything anymore? We have to look back at what a king really meant, and we still know what a king means. He's pretty much got absolute power. Absolute power. Wouldn't that be the best kind of government? If you have absolute power and you do nothing but good, That's the best kind of government. Of course, we can't do that today because we are too weak. We're too prone to corruption and selfishness, and so we have to have these balances of power in the United States, president, courts, the legislature, Congress, so we can't have absolute power in anybody. But God does have absolute power. And he really kind of transfers that to the church too, because the Pope has pretty much absolute power over the church. Pretty much absolute power. Nobody can take him to court. Nobody can, pass judgment on him in an illegal way. He's the king. He's the king of the church. And that's the way Jesus designed it. Peter, you're a rock. You'll be my representative to the end of the world. So, God wants kingship. And, in the Old Testament, Daniel had the king during Daniel's time, Nebuchadnezzar, had a dream of this giant statue with a head of gold and his chest of silver and belly and thighs of bronze and legs of, iron, and then his feet of clay and iron, all representing kingdoms of the future after Nebuchadnezzar. And then a huge rock from the mountain detached itself and came and crushed the statue and pounded it to powder, and the wind blew it all away. All those kingdoms were gone, and this rock became a mountain that covered the whole earth. What do you think that mountain represented? Because that's a mountain that's on this earth. It's not a spiritual thing. It's a physical thing, just like all the kingdoms were. They've represented the statue. So this mountain spread throughout all the earth till the end of time. So what do you think that mountain represented? Something physical here on earth, a kingdom here on earth. The church, only the church. The church is a kingdom and will last till the end of time. Is a kingdom, as a benevolent kingdom founded by Jesus to spread goodness and salvation and the sacraments and grace to the world, if we are subjects to the kingdom, to this kingdom, this physical and spiritual kingdom. The church is physical and spiritual. Physical in the hierarchy and in the lay people, all working together to advance the church and Mass and the sacraments, using all this. This is part of the church's kingdom, and it will bring us to the ultimate kingdom in heaven if we are good members of this church. So that's what we are members of. But when it comes down to the real nitty-gritty and down to the local level, down to me and you and our own personal spiritual life and our family, Jesus has to reign there. Ultimately, that's what God wants to reign in our hearts and our lives. So, we have to establish this kingdom in our souls. Is Jesus first in my life? Is God first in my life? Are His commandments the things that guide me throughout the day, throughout my whole life? Is He really king of everything that I do, of my heart and of my decisions and my plans and my future? Is He king of everything? And there's the external and the internal. That's kind of the internal. Is He king of my heart? But we need the external too. We need images in our family, in our house, in our religious house. Look at this friary. It's covered with statues and images. And, come into this church and front and center with bright lights as the Eucharist in the center. This was all planned, of course, by the friars because He is the king of our friary and of our hearts and our life. And that's the way we have it in many churches who really are devout and have this strong faith. Do you have that in your home? Can somebody come into your home and see that Jesus, your Catholic faith, is number one for you? So the externals are really important to remind us to celebrate. It's a little bit easier to put a statue on the mantle in the center, or a big crucifix, or whatever other things that you have. It's easy, but it's a beautiful thing, and it helps us to put Jesus front and center as king of our life and our family. So this is what we're doing. We're emphasizing the kingship of Jesus, that he should be ruling our life and our families, but also our society, to our public life. We try to do what we can to spread Jesus to others in the world in a public way as well, whatever we can do.